everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, you won't obviously know this, but almost about 2.5 months, nearly 3 months ago, I gave birth to a little boy, and I have a labour and delivery story on my channel. I will link that down in the description for you to go and watch. And now I want to address basically once you've given birth, giving birth and then recovering afterwards, because there is a lot of information on the internet, obviously you can find, you can talk to people that you know, but I think a lot of the time people don't want to tell you the whole truth, in case it freaks you out or anything like that. But you don't have to go and find that information if you don't want it. And I think that if you are actively seeking out that information to just know what to expect from giving birth, then I think there's a lot of gaps with information that just isn't shared. I'm sorry if I sound a bit gross or I'm sniffling a lot, by the way. I have recently been really, really, really ill, and I am now recovering, but I'm not quite better yet. So that's why I've had to put off making this video for a while too. But yeah, I'm here and I'm gonna do it now. So the one thing that I found that quite shocked me after giving birth was immediately after I gave birth, and they put the baby up on my chest. It was really, really underwhelming. And I wasn't quite prepared for that. If you watch shows like One Born Every Minute or anything like that, I don't know, whatever, everybody's always crying and it's such a big deal. And they put the baby on my chest and I was just sort of like, okay, it's a baby. And it took me a while. It actually took me a couple of hours to properly process that I actually now had a baby. And that's okay. Some people it takes a few days, some people it even takes a few weeks or months, and it is okay. It doesn't make you a bad parent. It doesn't mean that you're, going to be a neglectful mother or anything like that. But when it's such a huge life-altering thing to have a baby, and the whole time that I was pregnant, I don't think I properly processed it. And then just all of a sudden, you just have a baby and you're responsible for another human being in a way that you've literally never ever been before, and it's quite daunting. So yeah, if that shock doesn't make you have the reaction that you think you're supposed to have, it's not the end of the world. Don't worry about it. And also, after you give birth, it might take a day or two. It might happen straight away. It's different for different people. But generally, for the first few days, you're going to be really, really emotional. Everything will make you cry. You'll see an advert on TV and that's it. You're off crying. And there's just anything can set you off. But at the same time, it's good. It's not always bad. It can be, and if it lasts more than a few days, I'd probably speak to a doctor, because there can be some signs of postnatal depression. But again, it's nothing to worry about. It's totally, totally normal. It doesn't mean that you're gonna be a bad parent. It just happens. There's nothing that you can do about it. You can't control it. So yeah, be prepared for that. Bleeding after you give birth, right? So everybody knows that you bleed when you give birth. It's, it makes sense. However, you won't be prepared for the amount of blood. And this is a thing that a lot of people sugarcoat. And this might be a bit too much information, but when I had the baby, he was a forceps delivery. Just go watch the labour and delivery story for all the information. But yeah, in the end, he was a forceps delivery. And he, afterwards, I ended up with an epidural. And I'd been sat in the room after I'd given birth for about half an hour. And then the nurses came in and said, like, we need this room. We're going to move you to another room. And I went to stand up. I shouldn't have stood up just yet because I was still fairly numb from the epidural. But I was like, stuff it, I'm going to stand up anyway. And immediately had to sit back down. But when I stood up, I kid you not, there was like a gush of blood that left my body. Like, you know how in movies they make out the way that your waters break is a big gush? It was literally like that. And it was gross. And I was just stood there with all this blood dripping down my legs, like, what the hell? And then think about the worst period that you could ever possibly have, like really, really, really heavy. And basically, you bleed like that for typically at least 2 weeks. And it got to the point, like, it does start to slow down after the first couple of weeks. But for some people, it can go on for a good couple of months. And it got to the point where I was just thinking, surely it's not possible to actually bleed this much and not die. Because it was a lot of blood. But yeah, so do be prepared for that. Like, I leaked through so many clothes, even in just half an hour of putting on a new pad, it would be completely soaked. The best pads I found, Boots have their own maternity ones. They're really good. And the Always, I think it's size 4. They're like the nighttime ones. They're like extra long. And when you leave hospital, if they'll give you them, take the pads that they give you. They're awful. It feels like you've got a mattress between your legs. But they are fantastic. So not all hospitals do it, but if your hospital will let you have them, take them. Breastfeeding. It's not, obviously some people don't want to do it, and some people do, but don't expect it to just happen. It doesn't. A lot of the time it doesn't work for people, and it's really, really, really hard work. If your baby doesn't latch, keep trying, but only try to a certain extent, because you're just going to frustrate yourself and the baby, and then the baby's just not going to feed at all if they have that bad experience, basically. So, try a few ways, but if like both of you are getting stressed out, just stop. It's not worth it. If you want your baby to have breast milk, you can still just express and give them milk that way. I tried everything and he would not latch at all. And the same thing goes for bottles. It's not like a one size fits all. Don't just expect your baby to accept any bottle that you give them. The ones that you get at the hospital, they've got really, really small flat teats. And at home we had a few different types. We had like Tommy Tippy, Nook, Newbie. No, we didn't have the Newbie ones yet. Oh no, we had one. We got given one as a sample. and we worked out that this one newbie bottle, was it? Yeah, it must have been, was the only one that he would drink from. He hated the other bottles. So then we had to go out and buy some more. And then we had all of these bottles that were just no good. He did eventually accept all of the others, but he just wouldn't have them at first. So yeah, bear that in mind. Do have a few different kinds in case they won't have whatever you give them. When you leave the hospital, so obviously in my case, I had a forceps delivery, which meant I needed an episiotomy, which is basically where they make a cut to make a bit more room. You don't always, like, you can also get an episiotomy even without forceps. It just happens. And obviously they're going to give you something to numb you at the time. You don't know that it even happens at the time, but afterwards it's going to hurt. It took me probably the best part of the first day after having him for any pain to kick in, and I think it's because I'd had an epidural that takes so long to wear off. Even once it had mostly worn off, like my legs were still quite numb, which was how I could tell it hadn't properly worn off yet. So the baby's just woke up from his nap, so now he is joining us. But yeah, so it might take a little while for the pain to kick in, but when it does, it hurts. It really hurts. And don't do what I did. When you leave the hospital, the midwife came to me and she said, you know, we're going to discharge you, but we've got to do these checks first, blah, blah, blah. When you leave, go to the desk and ask for a prescription of, I believe it was dihydrocodeine. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. I totally forgot about it because I stayed in a hospital overnight. I just wanted to go home and, you know, be comfortable and stuff. So the only thing on my mind was getting home. Didn't go to the desk, which meant that I could only have paracetamol. And paracetamol does not even begin to cover the amount of pain that you're in after an entire human being has just left your body. It just doesn't. And if you are breastfeeding, you also can't take Cocodamol. So you're kind of screwed, basically. It hurts. And it sort of peaks at about the first week. It gets to like the height of the pain. And like by about day 6 or 7, I was in absolute agony. I was just crying and crying and crying. It was awful. I felt like just nothing that I did helped. Nothing. I couldn't sit or lay in any specific position that made it hurt less. I tried ice packs, and it is bad. Ice packs do help a little bit, but not a great deal, but do try them anyway. There are lots of different kinds of herbally oil things that you can put in bath. People say have a salt bath, but I don't really want to get into a bath with salt on an open, well, not open, but you know, a fresh wound. I felt like that would be more counterproductive because it would hurt a lot more, but people say it's great. But yeah, look into it a bit more about the kind of things that you can do to help the pain, because there are so many things out there. What else? You are still gonna look pregnant, and I don't mean like just a little bit, like I mean really your stomach does not like just deflate straight away. you're still gonna look a good 7 months pregnant after, like, immediately after you've given birth. Now, over the first week, it'll gradually go down a bit until you probably look maybe 4 or 5 months pregnant. But you pretty much from after that, it's not going to go down much more without you actually doing the exercise and making the effort and stuff. And it doesn't, like, I don't know, obviously you've just had a baby. Your body is literally never, ever going to be the same ever again. But it's not a bad thing. Like, you should embrace that, because you've just done something that only women can do, and not even all women can do. And it's really, really incredible. Like, you just created a human life. So don't stress about it. Your partner isn't going to care. If anything, he's likely to have, like, a higher respect for you, now seeing what you've done. But yeah, just be prepared that you are gonna look pregnant for quite a while. When you're in hospital, they're not going to discharge you straight away. You might have to stay in overnight. You might even have to stay for a few days or a week. But expect to get woken up a lot, if not by other people on the ward, but by the nurses, because like every hour they have to come around and check, I don't know, everything. So every hour they come back in and they'll check your blood pressure and do your temperature and do all this other stuff. And the whole time that you were pregnant, you know how they were like obsessed with any bodily fluid? It doesn't change after you give birth either. While you're still in hospital, anything that can come out of your body, they want it. So you have to pee before they'll even discharge you, and if you don't, they will give you a catheter. And to be honest with you, I'm not really sure why, but she made a big deal about it after she took me down to the room that I spent the rest of the day in, and she was like, you have to. And she gave me like a bucket and was like, go and have a wee and bring this back to me. And she was like, and if you don't do it within an hour, we're going to give you a catheter. And I was like, yeah, but I don't need a wee. Like, but yeah, you have to. So... yeah, sometimes your whole vagina can be different after you give birth. Hi. Say hi, everybody. There was almost a smile there. He's still a bit grumpy from waking up. It can just be totally different. So when you're pregnant, doesn't always happen, but a lot of the time, your vagina swells again. I don't really know why. It's to do with all the hormones. But your vagina will swell. And then after you've given birth, once you don't have those hormones, first of all, if you have an episiotomy, obviously you're always going to have that scar anyway. So it's not going to look the same either way. But once that swelling goes down, sometimes your vagina will just go back to normal size. Sometimes your labia can even shrink a little bit more. And that's kind of like quite surprising. So yeah, be prepared for that. There's no guarantee it'll happen. Sometimes it does though. So yeah, just keep that in mind. And I think that's all really. Yeah, just make sure, your boobs leak a lot. And don't just think it's a little bit either. About 3 or 4 days after, some people it's 2, 2, 3, 4 days after you give birth, once all the hormones have left your body, your milk starts to come in, and you're going to wake up in the morning and your boobs will be absolutely huge and rock solid. I'm not even kidding. It's like your boobs were just chopped off and replaced with footballs or something, and it hurts. It really, really, really hurts. They're going to be so, so tender. The easiest way to deal with that is to just express the milk to relieve it. It does calm down after a few days, but you do have to. I found for about 4 days, and the second I woke up, I had to express immediately, because otherwise I was just in so much pain, and it is really, really uncomfortable. And they just start to leak on their own accord, so always have breast pads. You will have to change them quite regularly as well, because otherwise you'll just soak through so many clothes. Why are you just chatting? Huh? Oh, he's a wibble wobbler. He's just got the hang of holding his head up. He's now 10 weeks. No, 11. He's 11 weeks now. And he's just got the hang of holding his head up properly about a week ago. So he's still ever so slightly wobbly. But he likes to chat a lot now. Don't you? You're a little chatterbox. So yeah, I think that's about all I can say. Yeah. But like, honestly, don't worry about it. Like, most things are normal, and obviously if you're worried about it, just ask someone that you know who has had a baby, or obviously talk to your doctor or your midwife. But yeah, that's it. But it is just a really, really nice experience. Obviously there are some pretty awful parts to it, but at the end of the day you get a tiny human out of it, so it's not bad. And yeah, I will post my labour and delivery story down in the description, like I said, and just keep an eye out for any other baby videos that I post, and I'll see you next time. Bye!